Welcome back to GridDrop. Today I'm back with episode number 3 of my MyTeam career mode on F123. If you're new to the channel or watched any of the previous MyTeam modes, you'll notice a bit of a discrepancy with the car and the team name. It used to be Rosberg Racing F1 Team, now we're GridDrop F1 Team. I decided it was kind of stupid to not name it after the channel, but here's a look at the livery. I think it looks pretty sick. Let me know in the comments what you think. Overall, I think it's pretty cool. So, going into upgrades now, I'm going to do a chassis department upgrade. This allows us to do 2 upgrades at a time, so this is definitely very important. Chassis is like one of the most important things you can upgrade. In terms of upgrades going on the car right now, we have a few from a couple different departments. You can see a chassis upgrade right there just failed, so gonna have to hop into the upgrade menu and make sure we get that one going again. As I said, it's very, very important to have good chassis development in this game, but the ERS upgrade has also failed, and also the ICE upgrade in the reliability department has also failed. So a couple failures, which is pretty annoying. I was hoping to get those on the car for this weekend, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. So into practice right now, we are racing in Azerbaijan. Overall, the car feels really good. I have a pretty good setup. This is a sprint race weekend. It's our first one of the season, so hopefully we can make up some good points in the sprint race. Obviously, qualifying is going to be a big factor in that, and just deciding where we start on the grid for the sprint race. We have had some pretty good results so far this season. Obviously in Bahrain we scored our first and only point. It was on our F1 debut, which is definitely nice. Unfortunately in Saudi Arabia the luck ran out a little bit. We did not score points, but hopefully we're going to bounce back in Azerbaijan and score a point or 2. That would be very, very nice. But overall, like I said, the car feels really, really good. It feels very balanced. There's a lot of good rotation through the corners. Unfortunately having a little bit of problem with locking up, but that's probably just driver error. So here we're pretty much overhauling the engine. We have a couple components that are pretty worn, so I had those in for practice. Going to take those out, and in qualifying and the race we should have a little bit of a faster engine. So I like to do that with the worn components, is just use them in practice, get them a little bit more worn because I don't really need them for the race. But here we are in qualifying Q1, our first banker lap, unfortunately getting impeded by both of the Red Bulls. So Max Verstappen was giving us a little bit of a nice tow along that second straight, and unfortunately had to brake kind of early. We don't really have the brakes that the Red Bulls do, and that invited Sergio Perez up the inside, and he kind of ruined our lap. So not going to be the fastest lap in the world, but luckily it is a banker lap. We do have pretty much one more attempt. I'm just going to do one more attempt in Q1. I'm not going to go too crazy as we do have the sprint race, but yeah, so second lap hopefully is going to be better. Here's our second lap right now. We're currently in last position, so we definitely need a big improvement. I think we need about 2 seconds to make it out of Q1. Right now we're up by 1 second. I don't think that's going to be enough. We made up most of this time in that corner where Sergio Perez and Verstappen were pretty much just impeding us on the track. So I'd be shocked if we get out of Q1 and into Q2, but we'll have to see. So through these high-speed S's now and onto the main straight of the Baku City Circuit. Like I said, I don't know if we're going to be able to get out of Q1 with this time. This lap has not really felt that good. I've been sort of just going a little bit wide, missing apexes, and the braking hasn't been the best. So unfortunately, not my best lap. I'm not too optimistic, and that's an answer right there. So qualified 21st out of 22 cars. We do have a pretty bad car comparatively to the rest of the field, so I at least have that excuse. But our teammate qualifies pretty much right with us. He's also knocked out in Q1. And luckily, we do have the sprint race to look forward to. So I'm hoping we can finish somewhere around P15, 14, 13. Somewhere around there would be a really, really good result, obviously starting from this far back. But on to the medium compound tires. 9 laps to go for the sprint race. The red lights are coming on, and we are racing in Azerbaijan for the sprint weekend. So pretty good start off the line. Decent amount of traction up the inside, it looks like, of these 2 cars into the first braking zone, alongside our teammate now, fellow GridDrop F1 Team driver, newly the GridDrop F1 Team. But it looks like he got the better traction out of that corner. We're going to get a better run into the braking zone. A little bit of contact with Guan Yu Zhou, but we're still alongside our teammate. We're going to out-traction him onto this back straight. Luckily, no damage pops up on the MFD after that contact, so we should be in the clear in regards to front wing damage. But up the inside now of Guan Yu Zhou, pretty much exactly where Sergio Perez impeded us in qualifying 1. Now going to be stuck behind this kind of train of cars. Already into 17th position, so made up a couple of positions. Definitely a good start. We can probably go for a move on Nico Hülkenberg right now up the inside. It might be a little bit risky in terms of track limits, but we're going to try the inside. Luckily, he gives us the space, and we are up into P16. So through the tricky castle section now, following the Alfa Romeo of Valtteri Bottas, it's very important to make sure that our tires don't degrade too quickly. We only have one set. Obviously, there's no pit stops in the sprint race. It's only 9 laps. And our tires are going to be degrading much faster than the cars around us. They have much more advanced tire upgrades on their cars. So we have to make sure we're driving consistently enough to not wear the tires. But looking for a move potentially up the inside of the Alfa Romeo right now. It's going to be side by side. It's a drag race into this upcoming left-hander. Valtteri's going to have the inside. He's much better on the brakes. Looks like he's going to go for a move, but luckily my outside line turns to the inside line, and we can make that move stick. So we'll see a replay right here. This is Bottas's point of view. Much better on the brakes right there, but unfortunately he just didn't really have enough space to go for that move, and that was pretty easy pickings for us. So into P15 now. Unfortunately, that was kind of a bad place to make that move on the Alfa Romeo. So DRS is enabled this lap. We're on lap 3, and unfortunately the gap to these guys in front is just too big. I won't have DRS for at least a couple laps unless I can make up a lot of time. So in terms of that move on Bottas, I should have been a lot more patient and followed him more closely and kind of had an easier overtake that wouldn't cost me so much time. So definitely could have been more patient. Looking back on it, I should have waited and just found a better place to overtake. But lap 4 now, Bottas is very close behind. You can see the gap in front is still semi-consistent. I mean, obviously the cars are definitely pretty much further ahead than me. They do have a DRS train in front, so I'm kind of a sitting duck to these guys behind. I sort of have a train behind me now. I'm just using pretty much all of my battery to make sure that I can keep these guys behind since I don't have DRS. But what I'm hoping is that these cars in front start fighting. If they start going side by side through a couple corners, it'll give us a much better chance of catching up. So on lap 4, about to turn into lap 5, Bottas is going to have DRS. He's flying around the outside. We can't really do too much about that. Sort of even under braking. He turns in, we get pinched to the inside curb, and I think that was probably my fault. I left my nose in there a little bit too long. He was ahead under braking, but I was just barely alongside. I was surprised he turned in so aggressively. I didn't think he'd pinch me that hard. I thought he knew I was there. So that's probably my fault. Luckily, no damage on the MFD, and we keep 15th position. But Bottas is really looking feisty now. Up the inside into this corner where Perez got us in qualifying. And now we're side by side. Hopefully we can make a move up the inside now. And this is round 2 on this corner of me and Bottas going side by side. So luckily we get 15th position right back as soon as we lost it. But now we have another car challenging us. So this is Kevin Magnussen up the inside. We pinch him to the inside curb, and luckily he backs out. He should have backed out way out of that move. And luckily that opens up a pretty decent gap to the cars behind. They're now a second behind. So if we can maintain this second lead to those cars behind, we should be out of DRS and hopefully can just have a much smoother, more relaxing race. But on to lap 9 now. It's our final lap of the sprint race. And I cannot wait for this to be over. We've been on the back foot the entire time. If you look at the gap on the top left, it's absolutely dramatic. All this side-by-side action with these cars behind has really killed our time, and it's killed our tires, and we're just really, really slow overall. So I'm driving normally. I don't feel like I'm taking, bad lines or I'm braking wrong or anything like that. The tires have gone off. We've had so much side-by-side fighting with these cars behind, and we've just been under pressure this entire time. So I'm very glad that we're finally on the last lap, as this has been sort of a nightmare. I'm very glad that this is over. But on to the final straight right now. Nico Hülkenberg is pressuring us behind. He has DRS. We're using all of our battery to hope we can keep P15 across the line. He's definitely going to be gaining once we get closer to the line. His DRS is open, and luckily we have just enough to keep 15th place. So, man, that was definitely not the sprint race that I wanted. We had way too much fighting, and I should have been a little bit more patient with that overtake on Bottas. But here are the results. I'm in 15th. Our teammate is in 17th. Overall, a good result for the sprint race.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Russell, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Gasly, Ocon, Albon, Stroll, Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri, Cowboy, Hulkenberg, Fittipaldi, Joe, Magnussen, Bottas, De Vries, and Logan Sargent. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
All right, here we are on the grid. I believe our strategy is going to be the mediums to hards. I'm expecting probably a safety car or a VSC at some point during this race, given the nature of the track, so hopefully that strategy plays into our hands. But the red lights are out, and we are racing in Azerbaijan. Again, ducking to the inside. It looks like we can get a couple cars, 3 cars, off the start into turn 1 right here. Definitely a good start, a lot of traction right off the line. Side by side with Lance Stroll now. It's a drag race into turn 2. Hopefully we can outbrake him. Sort of looking for a move up the inside of Alex Albon. I don't think we're going to have enough time to get fully up the inside, but a drag race with Lance Stroll now. We're going to turn the battery on and just trying to out-traction Lance Stroll down this back straight into turn 3 now. It looks we can go for a very, very late lunge into the braking zone of turn 3. We get past the Williams up the inside, and that was definitely sort of a risky move. If he had turned in just a little bit earlier, that could have been the race over. But into 11th position now, definitely a really, really, really good start. I was hoping we could finish around 11th place, so this is definitely much better than I expected. But sort of losing a little bit of touch of these guys in front. Obviously, they're bunched up, sort of just in one big train. So hopefully we can use that to our advantage, make up a lot of time in the braking zones, and we should be able to catch up to this pack relatively quickly. I'd say by next lap we should be sort of in more of a position to strike, but if we can get into the points, that would definitely be a huge achievement in this car. We're so far down the field, but it looks like we can get in the points right now. We're switching to the outside to go for a move into turn 1, side by side with the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. We give him the space, and luckily we have the traction to stick it around the outside, and that is P10, so we are in the points. Definitely a very nice result so far. Esteban was on the hard compound tires. We do have a couple drivers ahead that are also on the hards. I really, really want to make use of the tire advantage that we have right now, but potentially we could go for a move up the inside right now of Lando Norris, and it looks like this is pretty much exactly what we did in the sprint race on Bottas. This is Lando's point of view, and we get up the inside much, much smoother this time around and don't lose too much time. Unfortunately, going a little bit wide on that apex right there, but luckily these guys in front are still fighting, so we should be able to catch up in no time. Making up a lot of time in the braking zone into the castle section right now. Very important to not make a huge mistake in here. It's very easy to kind of slide into the wall or just run really, really wide through this section right here, and it's very important to make sure we don't do that. So staying within track limits right there, and Carlos Sainz is our next target. These guys in front of him are fighting side by side. We're already in P9. If we can pass any one of these guys, it would definitely be a fantastic result for this first stint. And it looks like we can potentially go for a move on Sainz. Going to brake a little bit early just to make sure we're not going to smash into the back of him. I'm going to be a little bit patient this time around and not be too greedy with these overtakes. But speeding up the lap a little bit right now, still braking pretty conservatively behind Sainz. I really don't want to be too greedy with these overtakes. I must be a lot more patient than I was in the sprint race because I don't want to lose DRS to these guys. It's very crucial that we keep DRS. So speaking of which, enabling DRS right now, Sainz is going up the inside of Pierre Gasly, who looks a little bit slow. It looks like he does not have DRS on this main straight, and we're going to go up the inside now. He was sort of moving under braking right there, which was a little bit sketchy, but Gasly gets passed by 2 cars in 1 corner, so that puts us up into P8, which is absolutely fantastic. I did not expect to be running this high during this race, but here's Gasly's point of view. He's kind of moved under braking right there. His car was just positioned right in the middle of the track. It was good defending from him, and it looks like Gasly is not done with us. He's going up the inside now into turn 1. We're going to force him all the way to the inside, try to do the switchback on him. He's going to run a little bit deep after we squeeze him to the inside and kind of compromised his line. We have better traction on the exit of turn 1 into turn 2. Gasly around the outside now. We're squeezed to the inside, taking a lot of curb. We leave him enough space, and now it's a drag race into turn 3. But it looks like this is a drag race we are going to win. Even though Pierre Gasly does have DRS, we're going to have to look out for that. Into this corner, he flies by around the outside, and luckily we stayed towards the inside line and we could cover him off pretty effectively. But Gasly's definitely getting pretty feisty. He is on the soft compound tires, but luckily those should be falling off pretty soon. We're already on lap 7. My mediums are supposed to go about 13 laps. The softs should be pretty close to being dead by now, so I'm not really too worried about Gasly. But skipping ahead a little bit onto lap 9 now, Gasly boxed. Albon is out of the race for some reason. I'm not exactly too sure what happened there, but we're definitely getting some pressure right now from Lando Norris behind in the McLaren through these high-speed S's. We're going to let off the throttle a little bit, let him go by, and this is sort of preemptive defending into turn 1 right here. We're going to have the slipstream and DRS down this main straight, so definitely a very good move to let him go by in the S's, but sort of a drag race into turn 1 now. It looks like Ocon is going to be joining the fight as Lando slips behind. Ocon is side by side with me into turn 1. We're going to take the outside line, braking a little bit later than Ocon, swooping around the outside, leaving a lot of space. Actually basically just going a little bit wide right there, but luckily Ocon wasn't alongside enough to pass us in that corner. But lap 10 now, and we are somehow still defending our 7th position. We're in the points. I am absolutely shocked that we're running this high. I did not expect to be... I was, hoping we could get P10. I didn't expect to be this high up the order. So hopefully we can continue to defend this. I will say the tires are starting to fall off a little bit. They're kind of in that phase right now where they kind of drop off a cliff and then they slowly come back to you, but they're not really coming back as fast as I would want. So Max Verstappen is behind now. We're going to let him go in the S's, or we're going to let him go right here. He kind of just flies up the inside right there. I wasn't really expecting him to make a move into that corner, but we're going to brake a little bit early here, let him go, and this should give us DRS on the main straight. But like I was saying, the tires have not been really great on the last couple laps. They're definitely starting to fall off a cliff. So I am sort of considering going on to the hard compound tires just a lap or two early, but I'm not exactly sure how that would work out. I do think these mediums will kind of come back in a couple laps time, so we're just going to have to see. But you can see Ocon peeling into the pit lane right now. I'm not really too sure what strategy he's on, but under pressure from Lando Norris yet again. Unfortunately, having to brake a little bit early into this corner every time. I have been locking up here. I'm not too sure why this corner specifically is a problem, but letting Lando go again to the S's. Yet again, some preemptive defending. This will give us DRS, and we'll have a slipstream, and we can use our battery on this main straight to defend. So even though we're fighting side by side with these guys a lot, we're definitely on the back foot, but even though we're fighting with a lot of other cars, I'm not too concerned about losing time to the guys in front. I want to maximize as many points as I possibly can, going really, really wide right there. Lando gets invited up the inside as we go so wide, and he's going to take that opportunity and go up the inside into turn 2. Almost a little bit of contact right there as Lando opens his DRS, and now we are drag racing up until turn 3. So Lando outbrakes us a little bit. Like I said earlier, the brakes on our car are not really good. Luckily, we do have enough space to go up the inside. Lando gives us more room, and we can take that position right back from the McLaren driver. So like I was saying, I'm not really too concerned with the gap in front. Obviously, the gap to these cars ahead is pretty spectacular. It's definitely a very big gap, but I'm not really too concerned with that because I'm more so focused on defending from the guys behind so we can score as many points as possible. But you can see how many cars just passed us on the pit straight as we entered the pit lane. So hopefully, if we get a good pit stop, we should still be within the points. If it's slow, it's definitely going to be kind of an issue. And we have had some issues with our pit crew in the past. Hopefully it's a good one. It looks a little slow on the front right, and it's a 5-second pit stop, which is definitely going to change our race. So we were in 7th position earlier, and we had a couple of people pressuring us from behind with a 5-second pit stop. That's definitely going to put us behind those. So hopefully we can still emerge in like P11, P10. We're going to have to see closer towards the end of the race once everyone kind of, fulfills their race strategies where exactly we end up. But our teammate is the one behind us right now. I think we're going to enact some team orders and make sure he does not pass us because I think we've got a little bit of a better chance to fight for points right there. He is on the soft compound tire, which means he's going to have at least one more pit stop this race. So I don't think our teammate's going to be scoring any points. But on to lap 19 now. Skipped ahead a little bit. We're in P11. And we're getting definitely some pressure from Kevin Magnussen behind, who looks like he's going for a move up the inside. He flies past us into the braking zone. We're still just behind under braking, and he gets that move done pretty quickly. Kevin Magnussen is our rival, so I definitely want to make sure we can get him back as quickly as possible as we do get acclaim and points for finishing higher than Kevin Magnussen in the races. So Hopefully we can go for a move into turn 3. We do have DRS. We're using the battery, switching to the inside now. It looks like Magnussen kind of moved under braking right there. We make a little bit of contact on the front wing. Luckily, no damage, it looks like, on the MFD. But I can't really tell from the replay. It looks like he kind of cut diagonally at the very last second in the braking zone. And I gotta be honest, I think I'm gonna blame him for that contact. I wasn't alongside, but he did kind of, cut diagonally and move left under braking. So I think I'm going to have to place the blame on the Haas driver for that one. But onto the main straight now. We're on lap 21, trying to break the toe to this Haas behind. And yet again, under pressure into turn 1, absolutely flying past us into turn 1 is Nico Hülkenberg. And hopefully we can get him back just as swiftly as we got Kevin Magnussen. That puts us into P12. Unfortunately, all this fighting side by side with these cars is straying us further away from the points. If we can pass Valtteri Bottas, the Alfa Romeo is a couple cars ahead, we can get back into the points. But I don't really know if that's going to be on the table if we constantly have to defend from these guys behind. Making up a lot of time in the braking zone. Unfortunately, a very poor exit and poor corner entry. So Hülkenberg lives to fight another corner. We really need to get past this guy as fast as we possibly can. He is giving us DRS, on the main straight and on the kind of second straight, going a little bit wide right there. But he is giving us DRS, which is definitely helping us get closer to Bottas. But the side-by-side fighting and stuff like that is really not beneficial. It's just making us stray further away from the points. So we do need to overtake him and Valtteri Bottas in order to get back into P10 and score another point for our team. But I don't know how possible that's going to be if we have to keep fighting these Haas cars. So luckily, Ocon has passed Kevin Magnussen behind. Hopefully those two can kind of fight it out and sort of relieve the pressure coming from behind. But definitely have to pass Hülkenberg on this straight. It looks like we're probably close enough to go for something on this straight. We will have DRS. I do have a decent amount of battery, not really that much. I was conserving during those laps that were kind of off camera. I was not using the battery pretty much at all in order to save up for the later stages of the race. But now definitely need to use that battery. I'm glad I saved up a good portion of it. But DRS is now not enabled. I'm for some reason choosing not to enable DRS. There we go. It looks like we're going to go for a move around the outside of the Haas car exactly one lap later, and we get him back. Leave him enough space, going very, very wide right there, just to make sure we don't have any type of incident. And we are around Nico Hülkenberg effectively. So back into P11. All this fighting is kind of starting to drive me crazy. Still a pretty good gap to those cars behind now, which is good. But on to lap 23 now. Ocon has now passed both of the Haas cars, and he's lining us up next. He's on the soft compound tires, so I think my strategy here is to let Ocon go on those soft compound tires, use him for DRS, and see if he can bring us closer to Bottas. By the last lap, his tires should be falling off a lot. So if we use him for DRS and he brings us closer to the Alpha, we should be able to overtake both of them on the last lap and get into the points. Right now, it's kind of just do or die. I mean, I don't really think passing him is a good idea. It's just going to keep us in P11, and we don't really lose any points by trying this strategy out. So we're deliberately not passing him right there. You can see letting off the throttle a lot, and we're going to see if we can stick with this guy, and hopefully he can kind of tow us along towards the Alfa Romeo in 10th place. It's going to be very, very crucial that I stay within DRS of the Alpine, because otherwise I'm going to get overtaken by Hülkenberg, or I'm just, going to finish. I'm just going to finish in P12. So definitely very important to stay within DRS. Hopefully my tires have enough life in them that they can stick with some softs. I assume his softs are a couple laps old. But yeah, so speeding up the lap a little bit now. You can see, unfortunately, Ocon is kind of just breaking away. I don't think I had the pace to keep up with the Alpine on soft compound tires. Looking back on it, I guess it was kind of a bad strategy to not pass him when I had the chance, but we're not losing any points by trying that out. So yeah, unfortunately it doesn't look like points are going to be on the table for today, but hopefully we can fight for P12. All these positions do matter in the long run. If we do have an even amount of points with another team, say like Williams, if we're tied with Williams at the end of the season, this P12 might be, the thing that kind of breaks that tie. So it is important to not just give up and retire the race. I also do want to continue the race to beat Kevin Magnussen. At that, it'll give us a claim and kind of push us past him in our rivalry. So on to lap 26 of 26 now, our final lap, and Oscar Piastri is now the McLaren, pressuring us from behind. Hopefully we have enough battery to fight. We do have a good amount of battery saved up. We're not going to have DRS on this straight, and going really, really wide right there, barely avoiding contact with the wall. That invites Piastri up the inside. Luckily that inside turns to the inside for us on the next corner, and we can cover him off pretty swiftly. But through the castle section now, definitely feeling the pressure from Piastri behind. I really don't want to make a mistake, and I want to keep P12 if I can. So Magnussen is still behind. Don't really have to worry about him. That's at least a win in my book, is beating Kevin Magnussen in the race. Obviously a very good result from P21 in the sprint race and P15 this race. You know, gaining a couple of positions. Unfortunately, that slow pit stop did kind of just destroy our race, but forcing Piastri to the inside right now. Hopefully that compromises his line enough. A little bit of contact and some wheel spin on the exit right there, as he's really, really pushing to get P12. Luckily, that kind of opens up the gap a little bit, and I think it'll be just enough on this main straight to keep Piastri at bay. We're going to have a good amount of battery to fight this, and it looks like he's just a little bit too far behind, so we should be getting a P12 result for our debut as GridDrop F1 Team. Definitely kind of a chaotic race, but I'm glad this one is over. Here are the results for the rest of the field. Obviously, we have a P12 finish. Pretty good race overall. We did have a lot of pressure from the cars behind, but yeah, so not really too disappointed with that. We started the weekend P21, finished P12. Could definitely be worse. So if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.